Addiction, recovery, redemption. These are survivor stories. You are listening to Shattered.
Today I have Bobby Newman. He is the founder of Newman Interventions. Thank you very much for coming online with me today, Bobby.
Thank you for having me.
What inspired you to start interventions?
Well, I went through my own struggles with addiction years ago, and was thankfully I had family that was supportive and was able to help me get into a program. And then, I also worked at a facility, and I became once I got sober, I wanted to go out and educate kids, and that was my thing. And I was a construction worker from Southern Oklahoma, and I had no idea how to do any of that, but I learned, and I had the desire overcame any fear, or overcame any barrier that I had. And so I learned how to do drug education and was going out to do drug education. And then I got into other areas of the treatment facility, and I got into other delivery of the program. And then I actually started a couple of different drug education programs. And I got I got sent to Hawaii and got asked to go out there and help set up a drug education program. And then it went into and I'd also helped during the admissions process. So it's been a thing as far as it's just a fundamental need, but it was more out of like the need from families that needed help.
Right.
And I had a particular skill. I actually, first time I actually had success at it. So I thought, well, this is something I can do. And so that it just one thing led to another to where I'm at today. But I've got nearly 20 years of experience, and I've kind of been thrown into situations that people are like, I don't know how we're going to handle this, and been lucky enough to figure it out. So we've tried and true methods, and it's such a needed thing for families to be able to do this.
Tell me about your past.
Well, I grew up in Southern Oklahoma, and I loved to play football. Grew up in a small town in Oklahoma of about 650 people. Very obviously, we're in the Bible Belt, and it was but got carried away in high school, started drinking a lot. And then, after saying then it moved on to marijuana. And then it moved on when I went to college to play football. It moved on to, got introduced to amphetamines. And then, just one thing led to another. And I became heavily addicted to alcohol and methamphetamine and marijuana, and then ended up in a lot of trouble. So, and I really, I had two sisters that were on the Dean's Honor Roll at college, valedictorian, salutatorian of their high school classes. And, my thing was sports, and come along and just couldn't seem to get a grasp on my addiction. So fortunately, I was able to get into a program before I went to prison for a long time. So, and I ended up not being a felon either, but
Right.
I like to point that out just because.
But you spiraled out of control several times, overdosing, and
yes, I did.
Really struggled.
This went on for probably 15 years. I mean, I remember the first time I got drunk was like, I probably, had I not thrown up and got sick, I probably might have died of alcohol poisoning. I was 16 years old, but it wasn't like I was just, oh my gosh, I want to go get high. I was just trying to I like to have fun. And that was a way to go out and have fun and get drunk. And, but it just got crazy for a while. I mean, we got into manufacturing methamphetamine and a bunch of other stuff. So, and all those things that you say you'd never do, you actually end up doing. And those are the other things that kind of, that baggage that carries along that, drags you down.
Right.
To get over. So.
How many years were you a drug addict?
I would probably say an addict. I was probably about 15 years. Now, when I was in high school, when I was about 15, 16 years old, I started drinking, but it wasn't like I, was addicted. But I can honestly say maybe the time I was 19, I was 35 when I went into a program. So 15, 16 years.
Yeah. Right. What was your rock bottom?
My rock bottom was looking at 7 years in a federal penitentiary, and there was no way out. There was nothing that was going to save me. There was no bail money or no little thing. That it was basically I had to straighten up or go to prison.
Right.
Even the fact I had a son that was 8 years old at the time, I'd failed a couple of failed marriages, I just couldn't put things together. And I wanted to succeed. I just didn't know how. So,
Right.
but,
And
and
so,
that was the thing. I basically painted myself into a corner.
right. And so you were sent to a long-term rehab.
I was sent to. I was basically yeah. I actually was able to choose the program I went to, and it was a very effective program. I was there for almost 4 months, and was there probably 2 months before things started turning around for me. So
Right. Did your family do an intervention on you to send you to rehab?
they did, and the federal government did an intervention.
The thought
the
of going to
U.S. Marshal
prison.
Service was like calling around, going, "Where are you?"
Right.
So yeah, they definitely that. One of the things about intervention, there's all kinds of interventions that happen. And that's what whether it be legal problems or health problems or what have you. And those are society and the world, universe, God trying to get your ethics in or getting you straightened out. And because when you go down the path of doing wrong things, then wrong things are going to happen to you. When you're so. People always wonder why, well, why, I don't know why this has always happened to me. Well, you got to take a look at what you're doing to actually, cause that. So, that's what I was able to do. Of course, it was all confusing to me at the time, but, it was the intervention was happening. They did come to me and ask me to get help. And gave them all the standard answers of, I
Right.
don't need to do it. I know what I need to do. I can do it on my own. And then
You
it
don't
was,
have a problem.
I don't, yeah, I know I got this. It's not a big
Right.
deal. I can stop anytime. And then it was the legal situation that I had to go in. So,
Right.
so,
I have a lot of, me personally, I've
mm-hmm.
had relatives that I would have loved to have had someone like you to help me with an intervention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to my knowledge, there's not a lot of intervention specialists in my area. So if someone's looking for someone such as yourself, what advice can you give them?
I actually have one of the things about me is I go all over the country. And you can find the one thing is to find somebody that's not emotionally attached to the situation as best you can, whether it be your pastor, whether it be some member of your friends or whatever that can come in and help guide the family and keep them focused on the end goal, because it's going to be a trying experience. The
Right,
family is going to confront things that they haven't confronted most of the time for years.
right,
There's so many things that they question about. Oh, am I overreacting? Or how bad is the drug use? Or list goes on and on. And the truth is that it's never too soon to intervene. I mean,
absolutely.
if you've got somebody that's on the road of destruction, you need to
Hmm.
get them off the road. You know,
Actually, the sooner the better.
yeah. I mean, I did an intervention, and the other thing is my son, who's now 27 and doing fabulous in life, he's from Southern Oklahoma too, and when he was about um, 16, 15, 14, well, it started when he was about 13, 14. He was just always an ornery kid. He's a pretty dynamic, good looking guy, very personable, very outgoing. But, he um, was started just going down the wrong road. He was going to he was going to be in jail. He was headed for, he's already started to commit criminal acts and things. And
Right.
I did an intervention. We ended up that we did the intervention. His mother finally just threw it in the towel. And her and I had been divorced most of his life, and she called me up and said, "I'm going to send him to live with you." And I said, "No, we're going to try to get him squared away first, because I just recently got married, and so we had to do an intervention over the phone." I said, "Look, and it's tough. It's hard, because even with everything that I know, when it came to my own family,
Right.
my emotions were right there,
Hmm.
and so I had to have coaching myself, somebody to support me. So that's what it's not. You're not supposed. People go, "I don't know how to do this. I can't." You're not supposed to know. This is not
Right.
something that you do every day. Um, and so I went in, and I had somebody virtually kind of cuff me around, going, "What do you do? What do you tell families?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is what I do," because I was just like I couldn't think straight.
Right.
And I had to give him an option. You go to option A or option B. Option B has got to look way worse than option A, which is what you
Right.
want to do.
Hmm.
Because if you don't give them, and you give them more than two options, you're just asking for trouble. You gotta present it something like, this is a way out of this. You can take it or not, but we're gonna disconnect it. So anyway,
And it's, you got to say what you mean and mean what you say. So the family has to be prepared that if they don't choose that right option, to stand firm.
that's right. That's exactly right. And it's kind of like, I use different types of examples. It's the person, if you've got a lot of times within the family dynamic, you've got maybe two or three or children, and one of them is not doing well and the other ones are. Well, you obviously want to try to offer this person some solutions to get better. But what families do is they take their attention off of the ones that are doing well, and
Right.
it's really not fair to them. So you offer some help and say, hey, if you're going to be a member of this family, this is what it's going to take. Because people, what they do is they lower their standards to say, well, I just want to, and that's not going to ever provide the motivation for the person to change. So,
Right.
and they have to be firm about it. And it doesn't mean it's easy, but
You have an online course that
I
they
do.
can log on to your website. What all does the online course entail?
Well, it basically covers, I had a 25 tips to a successful intervention that I'd send to families. And then I had a complete intervention guide, which was 37 pages, including pictures and everything. But it covered everything: how to, what to do in certain situations, how to communicate, how to do the intervention. And I kind of condensed those down, which is very thorough. But basically, it goes over when you're going to when's the right time to intervene? What's the best type of treatment program that helps the person on addiction? Um, how to interact with the person during the course of the intervention, how to interact with them once you get success, and they go to the program, because once it's not over when they go to the program. Just because they
Right.
go, they're still going to be back. I don't want to be here. This place is terrible, or there's roaches in the food, or whatever. And it's when to intervene, what type of treatment program is best for your loved one, and the things to think with, how to interact, what to do after they get there, how to properly prepare for the intervention. It's very comprehensive. So
Right.
that after then what to do when they come home. There's other things that need to happen when they come home. So
Right. I know for some people that have a loved one that's on meth, they're afraid when during the intervention they're going to become violent.
uh-huh.
How have you been faced with that situation, and how do you handle that?
It's not uncommon, and it's definitely something to be concerned with. I mean, the person, it's kind of like their brain has been short circuited. I mean, it's kind of like,
Right.
and now you're putting something in there, confronting them with something that, um, you know, just everything's a threat. Everybody's out to get them. I can't believe you guys did this to me. And they're just freaking out. I mean, and meth addicts are, highly, I don't know what the volatile, but sensitive.
Right. Very
Depending on if
volatile.
sometimes if you catch them at the right moment, if they're coming down, and the neurochemistry of the brain, the dopamine, and has all been depleted, and they're very remorseful, and they're down, and they're out of energy, and you can catch them at that moment, and it might be in your favor. Now, obviously, if they're high, that's a
Right.
different story. But that's a good concern, because, or a valid concern, because it's possible. One of my things is, the person typically violent? Is the person liable to? Do they have weapons? Or we're going to get them out of their comfort zone, and be in an environment to where we can control the situation, and
Right.
keep them, where they're not going to be able to get their hands on stuff. And if they were to I've never been assaulted or anything, but if I were, I'd call police and say,
Right.
assault me, and put them in jail. So,
Right.
and so if you needed to be, sometimes if there's law enforcement that needs to be there as a backup, then, that's what you do. You say, we're going to do an intervention on this person. And most of the time you can get law enforcement to at least assist you in
Right.
in the helping.
If you suspect there's going to be violence.
Yes.
Right. You've even had families to call you for interventions, and when you arrive, you're not even sure where they're at. You have to locate them in order to do an intervention.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
How, I'm sure
it,
that's pretty common, right?
yeah, well, it's not totally. I mean, it's not real common, but it's fairly common. I mean,
Right.
I'd say that most of the time the person is very locatable. An addict is most. I get told all the time and time again. It's like, well, I'm afraid they're going to run. Well, I'm going to tell you something. An addict, every fire needs oxygen, and every addict needs an enabler. They've
Right.
got to have means of support, and they're.
Right.
I tell the story of a friend of mine who was a meth addict that he was famous for running from the cops, running. And they'd look for this guy for months, and but they'd find him eventually right there at home.
Right.
There's creatures of habit. So I just got back from New York and had to go find that. Family had been searching for this girl for a week, and I got up there and they said, how are you going to find her? I said, I don't know. I said, then how do you go about finding her? I said, what's your I said, usually it's just luck. I go and find the places where they're going, and I'll start asking questions to people, and then kind of flush out, which is exactly what happened. They
Right.
told me, I knew all the places that the person had been. I just went and started knocking on doors, and before long, the family started getting phone calls, kind of flushed them out. So, and I found the girl the next day, and ended up getting her. It took me another day to get her in the program, but um, so yeah. I'm afraid I'm giving you long answers to these questions, but
No. Another thing is when the family does an intervention and they go off to rehab, I know that some of the families are afraid that after a week or two, they can just freely walk away from the rehab.
Well, that's a good concern, and that's one of the purpose of the intervention too. Is that you now set the standards. This is what we need and want. It's not about, and I really try to prepare the family. It's not about just getting them to go to the program. It's about getting them to go to the program, complete the program, and then apply what they learn. And when they come home, that
Right.
their responsibility and standards of behavior are now elevated to where they don't get to go, oh well, I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna take it easy for a couple of days. Well, dude, you've been taking it easy for however long you've been in the program.
Right.
Now you need to get back out there and get after it. Get back to work. So, and
How many years have you been doing interventions?
since I think the first one was in 2000 and right at the tail end of 2001, the beginning of 2002.
Right.
So 17 years. So
Good deal. What would you say your success rate has been during these years?
I would say it's 85% or higher. I mean, and I just started really tracking it. I mean, when I was out in Hawaii setting up a program out there for a while, and I had 100% success rate out there.
Right.
And then I came back to the United States, and the benefits of me being out there was I was able to spend a lot of time with the family before actually doing the intervention, and I
Right.
had been totally prepared on what to do with the intervention.
Hmm.
I mean, it's planned down to the T. If he does this, you do this. If he says that, you do this. And it's just everything. So I was able to spend a lot of time with them. But then coming back now, you're flying in and trying to, spend time with the family over the phone, and then you fly in, then you meet with the family, and then you do the intervention. So your time is shut. And sometimes these situations were, very. Um, I mean, going in, you knew that it was kind
Right.
of this is a long shot, but even then, it's right now. My success rate for the last 2 years is 84%,
Very
um,
good.
and then it's 89, 80, close to 89% of the families regaining control of their life. And what I mean by that is, like there's been husbands that have had to divorce their wives because their wives would choose to leave their three kids, husband and three kids, and go off and do drugs.
Right.
And and I try to tell them, look, if she's willing to do that, there's not if she's willing to, what mother's willing to walk away from her kids, there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do
Right.
for incarceration that's going to change that person's behavior. And if there's, and also I've had women that have had to get divorced from their husbands who, just refuse to change. And
Right.
they themselves, in saying that, they themselves are now getting, I'm not being drugged down by this person who's on a path of non-survival or destruction. I can now focus on myself and actually get on the, improve myself and not have to be attached to this person who's going down this
Right.
path. So
You also help get them to rehab or locate a rehab and get them there if the family needs you to assist them with that as well.
yes, yeah. And and try to do our best to actually understand the all the aspects of addiction, right? And that means that there's a lot of things that people are that influence addiction, and it's biochemical, meaning there's physical reasons, and there's mental emotional reasons.
Right.
And the three biggest barriers, regardless of what treatment option you pick, the three biggest barriers to overcoming addiction are cravings, guilt or depression, and then guilt. Those are the three ones in that order. And because if you can't, the cravings are so intense for
Right.
the drug that and there's physical reasons for that because number one, it influences the neurochemistry of the brain. It also the body as an organism. Once it gets used to a certain chemical, it's gonna constantly crave that. It's like sugar, you
Right.
crave, you know,
Right.
try to eat one chocolate chip cookie. Just try.
Right.
You're gonna want another one. And and the other thing is the diet of an addict is usually very poor. And so
Hmm.
usually an addict is like the people don't realize how big of an influence sugar has in that. So you get off the drugs or you try to stop drugs, you start craving sugar. Well, the sugar also is like a drug.
Yes.
So there's so many things that change that. And then today they're going to exhibit depression and anxiety and a number of other things through the course of the addiction. And people go, oh, well, he's definitely got that. Well, you know, and then they say, well, so the thing, and they do. I'm not saying they don't. It's just that you can reverse those things through natural means versus just throwing them on, medications, which is the treatment industry today is geared towards medicated assisted treatment.
Right.
And I'm not saying that people don't sometimes need drugs. I'm not saying that, but I do know that I've gotten a lot of people off drugs and they didn't go from one drug to another.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So that's my focus is if a person wants to go into a program that they're automatically going to be put on, medicated drugs, I probably am not the guy to help them.
Right.
I'm going to try to steer them in the other direction, whether it be a long-term Christian program or whether it be a program that's like more along the lines of just life improvement and
Right.
physical well-being. That's the direction I'm going to try to steer them. I work with a lot of programs that are like that, but um, so there's a lot of aspects to addiction, and people don't take that into consideration. You can actually, well, he was doing this when he was 12 years old. Well, there may have been something going on when he was 12, physically or mentally, that there's also underlying trauma that people have, and
Absolutely.
so and then there's the guilt that most people are good people, so you've got the cravings, the depression, and then you got the guilt. And I'm telling you, when I went through the program, when I got to the guilt part, I wanted to leave. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore
Right.
because I became a person that I was now looking directly at the type of person I had become, and I'm like, oh, and I even told my friend, I said the guy, one of the counselors at the facility where I was at, he, I told him, I said, I used to brag about this stuff. I mean, this stuff was, he's bragging about.
Hmm.
I feel terrible. This is like I feel lower than low. And he said, and he looked at it and he goes, well, you should. He said, that's some pretty bad stuff. And I'm like, I
Right.
didn't expect you to say that. And he said, but the question is, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
How are you going to work your way? And I said, well, okay. So then I started to work and I started feeling better. And when I started confronting that stuff and handling it, I then started feeling better. And I was able to not only forgive myself, but also take responsibility for my actions and also get others to hope, to
Right.
realize I'd turned the corner and was on the road to survival. So,
I know that there's a lot of factors involved, travel and everything, but what is the typical low end amount to do an intervention?
It, can range anywhere. Most of the time it's going to cost, interventions range. I know there was a guy out in California charged $7,500 and supposedly for plus expenses. And he's
Right,
supposed to hit a 99% success rate. And I asked the people, I said, well, what kind of programs is it referring people to? And he said, oh, they're outpatient. And I said, if all I had to do was get somebody to go to outpatient, I'd have a 100% success rate. I'd have 110.
right,
Oh,
right. You go
so
to that much trouble, an outpatient should not even be an option.
no. And the other thing is to get the person away from as far away from where they're using drugs as
Right,
possible.
absolutely.
Because if you have to do an intervention, it's tough, and there's a lot of factors there, and they start having trouble in the program. If they're right there in their local area, even within a few hours, they're going to be right back home. It's going
Right,
to be, so. But let's see. The question, and for me, I've done interventions for $1,500 plus expenses on up to, $3,500 plus. So it ranges anywhere from 15 to 35. The
right.
general price is, 3,000 to 3,500.
And that is really not very much money because most of the families that are dealing with meth addicts, those meth addicts are stealing that much of the family's property to sell, pawn, whatever for their drugs. So 1,500, even 3,500, it's really not that much money.
Right, and you have, and the thing of it is, it's you have about an 85% chance that it's going to work, and
Right,
and the programs that I work with have really high success rates. So you can step
right,
back and do nothing, and and I never know what I just had a guy that was a meth addict from North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, and I found out all the CD, well, not all the CD areas, I'm sure, but a lot of CD areas in Charlotte, North Carolina had met some addicts, went into some dope dens, and you know was able to. It took about 5, but I actually set the family up to where, okay, I got in front of the guy a couple of times, but he ran off on me. He even tried to run over one of the guys that I was with, but it took about 5 weeks for him to surface. I said he'll surface
hmm,
eventually. He's going to be in jail or he'll call or something. And
right,
so I stayed in touch with them the entire time, and I'm coaching them. And then they finally found him. And the mom wanted to run down there and get him, and take him home, put him to bed, feed him some food. I said, no, you
right,
go in there and get him, and you take him straight to the facility. And if he don't want to go, you leave him on the side of the road.
right,
And she picked him up, and I said, if you're not ready to do that, then you just don't even go down there.
right.
And the husband, the dad, was on board with that because he even would call me separately from the mom. And these are super, super nice people. And she wanted the motherly instinct, and sometimes it's the dad. Sometimes the
Right,
roles can swap. And I said, look, you're going to destroy everything, all the trouble that you've gone to, all the money that you spent for me, and all the private investigator, and
hmm,
everything else, all this trouble and worry. And I said, you bring him home, he's going to get energized. He's going to go out on another run. You're going to be another 5 to 6 weeks trying to find out where he's at.
right.
And so they took him and they got him out in the middle of nowhere. They said, you're going to rehab. And he threw a fit. They said it was like a little 2-year-old kid on the side of the road in the community.
Right,
He said, well, you either get back in the car and go, or we're going to drive away and leave you. And they actually shut the door and was getting ready to drive away. And he said, all right, I'll go. And he got in the car, and he's in rehab right now. But so, I'm just saying it's an ongoing process. The
they
longest,
try to call your bluff.
yeah, they do. Yeah, you can't be
Right,
bluffed. You can't be
right,
bluffed. And, it's, so with me, I stay in touch with the families and continue working with them, and get them set up if I can get them set up to actually you know hold strong. I have a mom that just texted me this morning. Her son's about to complete the rehab. I went up there, was helping them for about 6 days, and I was up there for 6 days. He'd taken some synthetic stuff and got a hold of something, and he went bonkers. And so I would go up there every day, and I started after about the third day. He was in a psychiatric unit. I went up there and started taking him pizza every day. He didn't know. And he said, "You're the pizza guy." I said, "Yeah, I'm the pizza guy." Well, then he started coming out of it, and he started coming.
right.
and then I go up there, and finally we was able to do when they were going to dismiss him, discharge him, and we were able to do the intervention, and he didn't have anything. They were basically ready to say that's it. And the mom was the big enabler. She would just give him, that she had the means to be able to support him. And he was 33 years old. And so, but I was able to get her to stay strong. And I found another family member that the older brother was able to make sure that she stayed strong.
Right.
And Mom, you got to do this. Mom, you got to do that. And so she even texted me this morning and said, he's coming home, and I'm going to, I said, well, stay in touch with me. Let me know what you need. And she said, oh, I will, and I'm going to track it. I'm going to pay you. And I said, of course, don't worry about that. I just want her son to be okay. So,
right. Enabling, a lot of mamas, and me included, I never intended to enable, but you have a hard time realizing that your child's probably not eating and doesn't have a bed to sleep in, and there's just so many factors. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. It is tough, and the thing is that you offer them a place. I had a kid up there in Iowa just recently that I got him to agree. I said, "You love your mom?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I love her death." I said, "I'd do anything for my mom." I said, "That's awesome that you say that because your mom wants you to go to rehab."
You're gonna do something for it. Get your butt to rehab.
He looked at me and I said, he goes, he said something. I said, "Oh, it's anything but that thing that you'll do for your mom."
Right.
I said, "You're keeping her up at night. You're making her sick in her stomach. She's got high blood pressure, and that's what's going on with your mom right now. And you want to help her with that, right?" And so, but the thing of it is that she was ready. She had been allowing this to go on for so long that she was ready to say, that's it. And it's hard. It's not. But and they'll even leave. They'll blow up and leave and be gone for 2 or 3 days. And my question is I had a kid in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and he was 19 years old, and mom took him. She was a pretty successful single mom, there in the area, and she had 2 teenage daughters. And this kid would come in, literally steal the Christmas presents from the other kids, and do stuff. And so she bought him another apartment, had the restraining order, and so, but he'd still come over. And so I went in there and we do the intervention, and he's in there in the pantry, getting him some cereal. And she's like, "Honey, now come over here and sit down so we can talk to you." And he's saying things that are like, not nice back to her. Yeah, I just walked in there and I said, "Give me that cereal." And he looks at me like, "Who's this guy?" And he hands it to me, and I put it down. And I said, "Now come in here. Let's talk to you." We just totally had it prepared. Well, then he blows up and did his normal thing of, "I'm not listening to this." And he started to back away we had his kind of car blocked in, and he's going to leave. And I said, "Now, if you back into my truck, or if you leave in that truck, that's in your mom's name, she's going to report it stolen. So whatever's in there, they're going to catch you. So in a matter of hours, you're going to get pulled over, and whatever's in there you're going to get caught with." So he gets out of the truck, slams the door, and just takes off walking. It's raining. He don't have any clothes. And the mom looks at us and says, "Now what do we do?" I said, "Well, does he have any money?" "Nope." "Does he have any food?" "Nope." I said, "Well, we're just going to wait right here."
He'll be back.
He'll be back. And within less than probably 12 hours, he was back, and she loaded him up and off the way. He went to the program, and it was the craziest thing because he told the people at the facility, he said, "I don't know who that guy is that's filling my mom full of all this crazy stuff." So
the interventions are mainly you coaching the family members for sure.
It's 80% for the family and 20% for the addict. They ask me, what's the hardest part about doing an intervention? It's handling the family, getting them to stop doing what they've been doing or to start doing what they've not been doing.
Right.
So,
but I know that once you leave with them or they get to rehab, that's probably the best night's sleep they've had in years. Just knowing that they're there, they're safe, they're clean.
Yep, that is. And, they can finally lay down and relax for a minute,
Right.
They're in a safe environment.
Absolutely. I'm going to put your contact information in the podcast. I know that a lot of people may have questions that I haven't thought to ask today. Um, but I know that there is a need for interventions in this area. And I'm not sure, have you come to Arkansas very much?
I've been up around Fayetteville, and I've been over around Fort Smith. I've been around Little Rock a little bit, and then over around Jonesboro too. So,
Right,
um, then I went down there. I had one little girl that was down there in southeast Arkansas once, but she ended up going in. I found a program. She said, once I got in front of her, she said, don't get me wrong, I want to get help. I just want to, have a little bit of saying of kind of help that I'm going to get. So, we was able to get her. I was able to help them
right,
have the two meet in the middle and find the right program for her. So.
right. I know I've heard a lot of them tell me that they want help, but the withdrawals are so painful that they just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's and the unfortunate part about it is that those are the people that sometimes fall in the trap of getting on methadone or Suboxone or something of the sort.
Yes,
And I have if that is used properly, which in it 99% of the time it's not.
right,
Um, Maybe even higher than that. But I do have a friend of mine who's a doctor in Tulsa that uses it to Suboxone and methadone, but he tapers them off and has them off of everything in
hmm,
a few days, if not weeks. But the one thing that he does is he improves their diet, and their sugar intake and stuff like that. But it is painful. But the problem is that the methadone is harder to get off of than the most even heroin or most opiates.
right,
And then
absolutely,
Suboxone is not necessarily as bad as methadone, but it's still a bad solution. What I get told a lot is that it keeps you in a constant state of withdrawal, so you feel bad while you're on it, and so the urge to go out and get find
right,
something change that is pretty high. So anyway, and then the people on alcohol, they usually get put on benzodiazepines, which is because the alcohol abuse in itself will create anxiety and
right,
nervousness. And a lot of people don't realize, well, that's a nutritional deficiency. You can actually correct that naturally. Uh,
right,
but they go get put on a benzo, and then you got the benzo, which is, for people that don't know, it's Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, stuff like that. And benzo, and then you now still have an alcohol problem. That's a deadly combination. You know,
right,
that's
uh,
what Whitney Houston died from.
right. Doctors are just too freely prescribing prescriptions nowadays, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yeah, and then the pharmaceutical companies, people go, oh, well, they wouldn't do that. I mean, surely people aren't that evil. Well, you look at the news and find out the people that are, the pharmaceutical companies that are now getting caught for misleading and false
Right,
advertising and squashing you know, the
absolutely. Well, their main concern was making money.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's right. So,
Um, is there anything you'd like to add that I haven't mentioned?
something can be done about it. I think you've done a very good job in asking a lot of really good questions. And I think that, something can be done. And, yeah, they're setting back and, well, I just don't know what to do. Well, something can be done. And
Absolutely.
statistically speaking, you can get in control of this situation. And I look at this like I told a woman out there in LA that she had a little 18-year-old daughter and on meth, and she calls me up, and she just texted me 2 or 3 days ago, telling me how good her daughter was doing. But um,
Good.
she she said, I told her, I said, look, I'm going to tell you something. I was an addict for 15 years. I was I used to bring dope in from Barstow, California, and sell it all the way up through Missouri. We used to, and I'm not proud of those facts. I'm just telling you that because I've been
Mm,
there marijuana. I used to be an advocate for marijuana, but these days these people are not. It's not a good solution, not at all.
right.
So, but the she said to me, I said, "How are you going to do this?" I said, "Well, all I can tell you, man, is that I can't outsmart an 18-year-old meth addict, and I'm sober, and
Right.
I need to find another job." If amongst us all very intelligent people can't figure out how to get control of an 18-year-old meth addict,
Right.
and they're super smart, they're being manipulated, and they're this, and I'm like, that's why we're smart too,
Right.
and we're not on drugs. So
Right. Well, that's where the mamas and them are emotionally attached, and you're not. So,
right, yeah. So I mean, it doesn't mean that everything goes perfect, but it does mean that you've got a way better chance than they do because they're on drugs. So
right.
if you look at it from that aspect, then I should be able to figure this out. So
I know. I had a relative just recently that stayed with me while he was waiting to go into rehab. And in 2 days, he went through 5 pound bag of sugar. And that floored me. I thought,
yeah,
where in the hell's the sugar?
yeah, yeah,
That's when I realized that he was just feeding that craving, them
yeah,
withdrawals with sugar.
yeah. That's right. So it's a big deal. I mean, I actually did and I'm eventually going to put on an addiction course, but people like, the skin problems that people
Hmm.
have with methamphetamine addiction.
Yes.
Well, skin cut problems like that can be actually associated. You could take somebody and rob them of certain vitamin B, and it would create the same scenario. They're going to have lesions, they're going to have itchy skin, they're going to have this and they have that. And just so happens that methamphetamine burns up vitamin B, right? So
Wow.
you start, so there's a whole education thing that could go on with people that could, and also, you like you said, the sugar. So I'm going to get to that. I do want to talk about this intervention course that I have, and it's
Okay.
people that can't necessarily afford. They're like, I don't know what to do. Well, this intervention course is for exactly those people. And they, well, I don't know
Right.
about this. I don't know all there is to know. This course was put together um, for those folks, and it's $299. It's a little under 2 hours of information, an hour and 53 minutes, I think, total. But they're not all at one sitting. These videos are anywhere from 9 to 10 to they average probably 7 to 8 minutes each. So
Right.
you watch a couple of them and then go grocery shop and come back maybe the next day, watch a couple more. But it also comes with an hour-long consultation with me on what to do to help, set up a plan and
Right.
be able to confront your loved one. Um, and then if you do decide, okay, I'm going to move ahead and get the full-blown intervention, then the price of the course would come off of the cost of the intervention.
Right. Very
So,
good.
so that's one thing about it is, and you can go on my website and go to newmaninterventions.com and look, and at the top it says intervention course. There's a 5-minute introductory video that kind of tells what it's about.
Right.
We shot that video after I'd been gone for about 4 days and come in and I'd been on very little sleep. So, um, you know, anyway.
I have been all over your website. It has a lot of beneficial information. So I will post that website along with your contact information on the podcast.
Okay, great. And if there's anything I can do for you guys, I think you're providing a great service for people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As you get into the other course with the health issues and with diet and stuff, I love that. I will have you on for another podcast. I'm all about holistic
Mhm.
approaches uh, versus prescriptions
Yeah,
because I know through your diet there you can heal from the inside out. It's just extremely important.
yeah, that's right. I'm really happy to hear that. I mean, because we need to, there's a lot of resources out there too that back up what you and I are saying. The medical professionals that agree with that. I mean, I've got a
Right.
friend, he's the Dr. Meehan out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm sure you probably know a lot of people there in Arkansas that are like-minded. I mean,
Yes.
it's people underestimate their own ability to overcome things. So
That's right. Well, a lot of people just put so much trust in their physicians, and when they should try the more holistic approach to it.
right, that's right.
Right. Thank you so much, Bobby. You've answered a lot of questions, and I hope this helps a lot of families.
Thank you. I do too. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right.
Hi, I'm Dee. I'm the host of the Shattered Podcast. Please like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell on the notifications so you won't miss an episode. I'm very passionate about helping families. If you are an expert that would like to help or would like to share your testimony, please contact me. Thank you.